Welcome into the End of the Money podcast for Saturday, October 6th, All Stars Weekend at Keeneland. Tom Leach along with Jim Goodman, Keeneland's Director of Wagering Development, as we take a look at the 5 stakes races on the Saturday card. There's an all-stakes pick 4 that starts in the 7th race with the second stake. There's also a late pick 4 that starts in the 8th race. We're going to focus on the all-stakes pick 4 when we get to that in just a little bit. And we also need to remind you that it's a special early post time of 12:40 p.m. Eastern for the first race on the Saturday card for Fall Stars Weekend. So, Jim, let's get right to it. We'll jump into the 6th race. It's the Grade 2 Woodford on the turf at 5.5, and I believe this is presented by Keeneland Select. And as always, this is a well-matched group. Where did you land?
Well, I landed on a 10-1 shot morning line. I'm not sure if that morning line is going to hold up on a Wesley Ward horse at Keeneland, but I landed on undrafted. I haven't been a big fan of undrafted for the last few races, but I took a look at that 2-for-5 Keeneland record. I took a look at that turf sprint at Kentucky Downs last time out when he just got beat by 3/4 of a length. Lost to Vici, who's another horse in this race, and Proforma, but he was gaining at the end, and I think that race sets him up so well for this after that trip to Ascot. His first time back, he ran really well at Kentucky Downs, and I think it sets him up really well for the Woodford. So I'm going to take the 8 horse here on top. I'm also going to use Vici, the 9, at 10-1. Will Call, the 10 for Brad Cox, who probably will go off the favorite, although that Ellis Park effort was not very good getting ready for Kentucky Downs. They skipped Kentucky Downs then and maybe pointed for this race. So that tells me Brad is pointing for this and that the horse has got a real big shot. And then the 4 horses, my other use, Extravagant Kid for Brandon Walsh and Corey Lannery. 104 buyer on the Woodbine Poly jumps out at you. Not as good on the turf, but that race was outstanding in the Jacques Carter last year. So I think this horse has got a lot of back class as well. So I'm going to use 8 with 4, 9, 10 in my trifecta. But I'm going to use, this actually starts at pick 5, we're not going to do, but that's the 4 horses I would use in the pick 5.
I going to go for a little bit of a price here. I always go back to an angle that our friend Jeremy Plunk cites in these turf sprints. And he always studies the history of the races and the courses here at Keeneland and comes up with some interesting tidbits. And when there's a full field in these turf sprints, I think it's the 3, 4, and 5 spots are prime positions. And if you go back, you'll find some crazy horses hitting the board that are out of those slots. And so I always factor that into my thinking at least. And there's a horse in here, the Extravagant Kid's in the 4, so I think he's very live. But the 3 horse Kid Perfect, I'm going to make my pick. I'm not sure that he wins this, but I think he could certainly be in the money, and if he could get second, could juice up the exacta. I like the post position, obviously. This horse seems to be peaking, and you get good value, and his Oaks Day runner-up effort behind Will Call would put him right there in this race. So I'm going to take a little bit of a swing here with Kid Perfect. It's not a strong win pick, certainly. If you're playing within the race, I'd spread out in the exactas and any horizontal wagers, but I'm going to key around that one. Extravagant Kid, I like. Buchero, the 2, the defending champion, I like. Will Call, got to use him. And Holding Gold has run well here before. And I'm going to stop there, but I could go deeper. Undrafted would certainly merit consideration, but I'm going to stop with that group on this race. Gets us to the 7th, and this is the Grade 2 Thoroughbred Club of America Stakes. And I'm going back and forth on this race, and I'm going to take a shot with Wesley Ward here on Happy Like a Fool. We interviewed Wesley for the Today at Keeneland show and also for social media, and on the latter he talked about Happy Like a Fool and said she is at her best distance at 6 furlongs and that he's wanting to go to the Breeders' Cup with her, so she is primed to run her best to get a ticket to the Breeders' Cup because if she doesn't run well, I don't know that she'd get in. Been off a long time. So I'm going to take Happy Like a Fool for a shaky win pick there. I like Golden Mischief, the 7, who's been in a nice form cycle lately. Miss Sunset is a must-use for me. Vertical Oak, the 4. And then I think a little bit of a price play is Awestruck. Talked to Rusty Arnold for one of the social media interviews, and he thinks that he's finally settled on her as a sprinter and given up on making her a route horse. And he says she has really come into this race very well now that they've focused on what's going to be her thing, which is sprinting. We're in one-turn races. So keep an eye on that one for a bit of a price. But a very shaky win pick for me on Happy Like a Fool to 6. How about you?
I've got a strong win pick in this one. I love Miss Sunset in this race. I think one of the angles, you talk about Jeremy's angles, one of my angles that I always look at is how those horses ran at Keeneland in the past. And a lot of times you'll look at races like this, and there'll be no horses with good form. If you look at Miss Sunset, she's got about as good a form as you can get at Keeneland. The 7 furlong Raven Run, she won it back in October of 17. Then she comes back in April and within a nose of winning the Madison behind Finley's Lucky Charm. So she absolutely loves this racetrack. I think the race at Del Mar sets her up perfectly. It was not a very tough listed stakes race that she won at 3 to 5, and I don't think she was really extended. But so Mike Smith comes in to ride her. I think all the signs point to Miss Sunset in this race for me. I'm also going to use Golden Mischief the 7 for Brad Cox. Had a big win at Mountaineer last out by 7 1/4. Obviously the competition was probably suspect, but she's got a 101 buyer on her page at Oaklawn back in the spring, so I think she fits as well. And the other horse I would use here is Vertical Oak, coming off the Open Mind win at Churchill, and a very impressive 99 buyer behind Finley's Lucky Charm at Saratoga. So I'm gonna take Miss Sunset for a win pick here, though, and I think 3 to 1, 7 to 2. I think she's a good value.
Take us on to the first grade one of the day, the 1 mile First Lady for fillies and mares 3 and up.
Well, let's see. It's a turf race. I think I'm going to pick Chad Brown. What do you think?
What a shock!
But I couldn't pick between the two. I think a Raving Beauty. The Boston Spa. She did not run very well there. Kind of stuck down on the inside, and I was really expecting her to bust out there after that Diana almost win behind Sister Charlie. She didn't run as well there. Kadura, on the other hand, took up the mantle and just went wire to wire. So those 2 Chad Brown horses on top for me. The 2 are Raving Beauty and 3 Kadura. You're not going to get any value there, but they may be exactly 2 to 1, 3 to 1, 5 to 2, something like that. There may be value underneath here in using also Donna Bruja, the 7 horse, has been working well. The Beverly D was a big disappointment at Arlington, but she ran pretty well here last year. And Jenny Wiley just gave it up at the end to Sister Charlie. And I would also use the 4-horse Crown Walk. This is an unknown quantity for me, but Mike Smith takes them out. The horse ran well in a Group 1 in France at Deauville back in July, so you always take a look at those Europeans that have some class. And don't know how good this horse is going to be, but I would have to throw her into my trifecta. But I'm going to do a Chad Brown, flip a coin between a Raving Beauty and Kadura.
For me, the play here within the race will be probably a 4-horse exacta box. 2 Chad Browns, 2 Euros. Sounds like placing an order. But my win pick's going to be Crown Walk off that really strong European form. Second in a Group 1 last time. Getting Mike Smith, getting Lasix, maybe getting a little firmer turf. She'll like. So I'm going to take Crown Walk. I'm going to use the 2 Chad Browns you mentioned, and also I'm going to use the other European in here, Indian Blessing, just on the respect for the European runners in the grass races. So I'm going to use those 4 within the race, within the pick 4 as well. 9th race, second Grade 1 on the card. It's the Grade 1 Claiborne Breeders' Futurity for 2-year-olds going 1 mile and a 16th. If Standard Deviation had a better post, I think I'd pick him, but I'm going to take Dream Maker. I like the 5-post sharp local work for this horse. Cassie LaPerouse, a strong combo. And this horse has a pedigree to love 2 turns. So I give that one the edge over the 14 because of the post position draw. A couple of others, Everfast. I like that race down at Ellis for this horse. So I think I'm going to throw that one in for a price. 3 Fluminense, if that's how you pronounce that. The 8 Tobacco Road, couple of Asmussen trainees that have shown some promise. So, I don't think there's anything that is at the moment particularly scary to me in here. So you might want to, follow your convictions. But I'm going to go with Dream Maker here for the win pick over Standard Deviation, mainly because of post position. How about you?
I can make an argument for Dreammaker, and then I have a problem with post position too with the horse that I picked. I picked Mind Control. Don't like the 13 hole, but I remember in 2015, I think Nyquist came out of the 13 hole and won the Breeders' Cup Juvenile at Keeneland. So it can be done. I'm not saying that Mind Control is anything like Nyquist, but those buyer figures, if we go 74, 79, 84, nobody else in the race has anything better than 79 or 84 other than Mr. Ankeny and the 81 buyer he got at Ellis may be a little suspect. I'm not sure that that group was that good at Ellis to run an 81 buyer against. So I think Mind Control is the most accomplished here. Obviously, already has a grade 1 under his belt. They didn't have to run here to get to the Breeders' Cup. They already had that wrapped up with the hopeful win. But I think Mind Control it looks a little better than these to me. I really like him a lot if he was in the 7 hole. But 13 hole, he's going to have to work. Dreammaker has a shot. I think Sambaye for Pletcher that ran fourth in the hopeful. Didn't run a great race, just kind of ran in the middle of the pack. I don't know if they did expect more out of him. So that's the first stretch after 7 furlongs. I don't know if he's going to like a mile and 16th or not. And then the 14 Standard Deviation, the horse that you mentioned, very impressive maiden win at Saratoga. They were trying to get him on the turf. That's the question mark. When they took it off, they decided he was a dirt horse. So he looked awfully good in that race. Only 6 horses there, though, so not as seasoned as Mind Control. So I'm going to go with the 13 Mind Control.
10th race, the Grade 1 Shadwell Turf Mile at the distance of, amazingly, 1 mile. And a really strong, full field in here. Who did you land on?
Yeah, this one's wide open. I don't have a strong opinion here. I absolutely love Heart to Heart. I love watching him race. I'm just afraid that if he doesn't get the lead, he can't win. And I'm not sure he's going to get the lead against Voodoo Song. So I'm going to take those two underneath reluctantly because I like both of them. So I'm going to say that they're going to go out to the lead, but I'm going to keep them in my pick 4 just in case one of them doesn't go out. If one of them takes the lead and is allowed to set an easy pace, Heart to Heart is very tough to pass. So I'm going to use those two in my pick 4. But my win pick, I am going on the very outside again. I hope the outside is good to me because I'm going to 14 Wesley Ward, Bound for Nowhere. They took the horse over to Ascot, and he only got beat by 3/4 of a length in the Diamond Jubilee Stakes at $800,000 Group 1 over there. Gave him a little bit of time off, came back in the Tourist Mile at Kentucky Downs, a $681,000 race. He won fairly easily there over that tough course. I think it sets him up perfectly for this race. And if he moves forward at Keeneland as much as he did last year from the allowance race to the Shakertown, he's going to win this race. I don't like the 14 hole, but I'm going to take a shot with him. I'm also going to use the 10 and the 11 horse in here, Almanar and Voodoo Song. And then the other horse I was going to throw into my pick 4 is Kerbon, the 7 for Mike Smith and Kieran McLaughlin. Very impressive Bernard Baruch race at Saratoga. But my win pick is Wesley Ward, Bound for Nowhere.
Yeah, Kerbon is one I'll take a long look at, too. I love horses with that great form in Turkey, don't you? 2 starts back he ran in Turkey.
A new Keeneland angle.
Yeah, it looked great last time at Saratoga. I like Bound for Nowhere a lot as well, but I didn't pick him to win. I went to Analyze It, a horse you didn't mention, which it just tells you the strength of this field. This horse looked like he could be anything coming into the year after his 2-year-old season when he won the Breeders' Cup Juvenile on the turf. And when he won here in the spring, just looked tremendous. And then has had a series of second-place finishes, all close races. But I think the problem with this horse is that I think he's going to end up being best at a mile. Maybe to a mile and the 16th, but definitely at a mile. He's 2 for 2 at a mile. And so the turn back from mile and an eighth races to a mile here is the big key for me. The form over the track is a plus. 5 works in September for this horse as well, which I like Chad Brown tightening the screws there. So I'm going to pick Analyze It to run a big race and win the Shadwell Turf Mile. Bound for Nowhere, I think, is I almost went there. It's kind of a toss-up to me. The others I'll take a look at are Heart to Heart, Kerbon, Voodoo Song, and Almanar as well. A really good effort last time up at Arlington. So this is a tough one for me. So we get to the pick 4, and problem with these pick fours, we talked about it on the Friday card, same way here, is trying to find a single and a way to narrow down the ticket, and it's just so difficult. I couldn't really do it here either. So I'm going to take, in this 7th race, I'm going to start with 3 horses, 3, 6, 7. In the 8th race, the First Lady, I mentioned the 4 horses. I'm going to use those 4, 2, 3, 4, 5. Then I'm going to use 5, 6, and 14 in the Breeders' Futurity, which is Dreammaker, Everfast, and Standard Deviation. And then in the last race, and that's probably the race I'm shakiest about, feeling good that I've got the winner on my ticket. I feel pretty good about the other 2 and about the last race because I'm going to use Analyze It, Bound for Nowhere, and Heart to Heart. So in 3 of those 4 races, I feel good that one of my horses will get to the winner's circle. Not so sure on the Breeders' Futurity. But I got to keep the ticket down, so I limited it to 3 horses. How'd you structure your ticket?
Well, we're structured a little bit differently because that's my single, believe it or not, and I'm not using one of your 3 horses. So we have a completely different opinion on that race. That probably shows you something that we really don't have a strong opinion. I do have a strong opinion, though, on my single there. I am going to go 3 deep, similar to you in the first race, with Miss Sunset, my top pick, Vertical Oak, the 4, and Golden Mistress, that's 3, 4, 7. I'm going to use 4 horses in the First Lady. I'm going to use the 2 Chad Browns, the Raving Beauty and Kadura, the 2 and the 3. Then the 4 Crown Walk, your pick, and Donna Bruja, the 7. Then I am going to single Mind Control, the 13 horse, in the Futurity. I just think that he's the best horse. I think Johnny Velasquez is perfect on him to overcome that post. And I'm going to take a stand right there with the 13 horse. And then in the Shadwell Turf, I'm going to go deep, and you just made me spend $6 more because I realized I should have put Analyze It in my picks. So I'm going to go 6 deep here because I've got plenty of money with my single. So I'm going to go 5, 7, 9, 10, 11, 14. That's Heart to Heart, Curbon, Analyze It, Voodoo Song, Almanar, and Bound for Nowhere, my top pick. So that is a $36 ticket, 347 with 2347 with 13 with 5, 7, 9, 10, 11, 14. Fun day. Got 11 races coming up on Saturday. Big day. Hope the weather stays good, and then we'll have a big win to celebrate when we go to Texas A&M and beat them Saturday night.
Amen to that. So remember, early post, 12:40 Eastern for the Saturday card. It's just Saturday only. And a reminder to keep your Keeneland Select accounts funded, because if you're tied up watching football and you're not out at the track and you remember you wanted to make a play, make sure you got some money in that account so you can do that. You can deposit on track or other ways. If you haven't signed up, sign up at KeenelandSelect.com. There are bonuses for new accounts. So, and if you are signed up, tell your friends about it. It's a great way to stay connected with Keeneland Racing during the meet when you can't get out there every day. For Jim Goodman, I'm Tom Leach, and that's the In the Money podcast for KeenelandSelect.com.